Sin más preámbulos, démosle por favor una cálida bienvenida al director Brett Ratner y, por supuesto, al fornido semidios Hércules, interpretado por el señor Dwayne Johnson. Hola Brett, bienvenido a México.
Hola.
Bienvenidos a México. Nos gustaría que nos compartieran, por favor, qué fue lo que les llamó la atención a los dos para realizar esta película basada en las historietas de Radical Comics, Hércules y las guerras de Tracia.
Oh, well, I'll say that since I was a little boy, cuando tiene un niño, escribe, how do you say books? Libros de comic books. Y escribe un comic book de Hércules versus Superman cuando tiene 6 años. So en mi vida, I was always thinking about, en mi vida siempre dreaming about doing a movie like Hércules, a sword and sandal movie, because I grew up watching the movies like Spartacus, okay, Ben-Hur, you know, all the great kind of period movies. And then I heard that MGM Studios was making a Hércules movie based on a graphic novel. I read it and I loved it. And I got a call that Mr. Johnson wanted to meet me. He comes over my house, he sits there, he looks me in the eyes, and he says, Brett, I was born to play Hércules. When Dwayne Johnson says I was born to play Hércules, you believe him. And you, when you first came to Hollywood, right? Tell me that story.
I did, yes. You know, I had been so inspired by the mythology of Hércules ever since I was a little kid. So like Brett, when we were 5, 6 years old, we were always inspired by Hércules and the power of Hércules, breaking the chains, and the mythology of Hércules. So my love and my inspiration of Hércules is many years. So when
it came from Steve Reeves, right?
It came from the original Hércules, which was Steve Reeves. It was the very first poster I saw when I was a kid of Steve Reeves breaking the chains and becoming Hércules, and it's titled I Am Hércules, and it was just such an iconic poster. So when I first got to Hollywood 15 years ago, Hércules was the very first project that I brought up to studio executives, because you know, when you make your rounds with studio executives in Hollywood, they say, oh, well, what movie do you want to make? And I said, well, what about Hércules? It hasn't been done in a long time.
I'm sorry, are you interpreting this?
No, they have...
oh, it's automatic. Oh, yes. Perfect. Okay.
Thank you, because my Spanish is muy poquito. So when I first got to Hollywood, I asked about Hércules, and at that time I didn't have any clout, I didn't have the juice to make it happen. Years later, I find out that they are making a Hércules, and they came to me with the idea of making a Hércules with Brett as a director. I went to Brett's house, and I spoke from the heart, and I said, I believe that I was born to play this role. I believe it in my heart, I believe it in my bones that I was born to play this role. Brett looked me in the eye and said, if we partner up on this movie, I guarantee, I give you my word, we will make something that is iconic, and we will make something that is going to be definitive for our generation.
And I believe Dwayne Johnson is this generation's Hércules. He defines Hércules for this generation. For him, it was Steve Reeves. For me, even though Schwarzenegger did Hércules movies, he was just, the strong man of my generation. So for young people today, Dwayne Johnson is the definitive Hércules. So, bravo.
Thank you.
Bien, comenzamos con las preguntas de la...
Hay otros elementos para hacer Hércules, hay series, hay películas, hay libros. ¿Tomaste alguno de estos, pues sí, algunas de estas referencias para interpretar a Hércules? ¿Y cuál sería el sello personal que le dejarías tú como señor Johnson a Hércules? Muchas gracias.
Well, you know, as we know, Hércules has been around for a very long time, over the decades. There's been comic books, there's been movies, there's been TV shows. There's an action figure, so the mythology of Hercules has been around for a long time, which then lent itself to the challenge that we had making this movie. How were we going to make a version of Hercules that was different? How were we going to make a version of Hercules that was going to stand out from the rest? And what we wanted to do was base our movie off a very well-written graphic novel that was cool, it was dark, and it had an interesting story in terms of taking the mythology and deconstructing it and flipping the myth. And what I mean by that is, what if Hercules wasn't a god? What if he was a man? What if he was a man first, who had a family, but yet he had a heart of gold and he had a steel resolve like no one else? So there's certain parts of the mythology that we take and we deconstruct it, we change it to make it different and hopefully to make it definitive. And in terms of what I was able to bring to the role, I think the number one thing that I wanted to make sure that we got across in the role, that I was able to bring to the role of Hercules, and that hopefully we were going to be able to do this together in terms of bringing to the overall story, was the power of believing in yourself and how important that is, because you have a mythology that's been around forever. Greek mythology, you have the story of Hercules that's been around forever. But the most important thing about this is the power of believing in yourself and how powerful that can be, and being comfortable with who you are.
And I have to say, what Dwayne brought to it, really, in my opinion, is an incredible amount of gravitas and levity. And why he's able to bring this is because he's one of the rare actors, and why he's such a big movie star is because he's fearless when it comes to showing vulnerability. For me, the actors who are not afraid to show vulnerability, especially a character like Hercules, right? The strongest man in the world, but he was fine with letting his hair down, and showing the vulnerability and showing emotion, and on top of that, bringing humor. That's what's different from this movie and every other Hercules movie. Every other Hercules movie and every other movie that's in the genre is serious, is dramatic. We have the seriousness, we have the drama, but we also have the humor and the fun. And that's what makes this movie different than any other movie that's made in the genre.
We have the fun. The fun.
Bien, ¿tuvieron miedo en algún momento cuando intentaron bajar la figura de Hércules, un semidios, a un plano más humano? ¿Y cuál fue el mayor reto para cada uno de ustedes dos?
Yeah, no, I think that's what attracted us to the story. It showed the humanity. Every other movie was driven by the visual effects, driven by the spectacle, driven by the fact that the mythology and the fact that he's fighting monsters and that he's half man, half god. This grounded the story. This allowed us to make something that was grounded, that was real, and then it informed us, and we were able to build the incredible. Did you guys see the trailers and stuff? The biggest sets you've ever seen built. Even that when we walked on the first day, we were like, oh my God. Because most of these movies are made in a room like this, all green screen. And everything is added in afterwards. Because of the story that we focused on, which is demystifying the myth, grounding the man, we were able to create these sets and these environments that were practical, where not only Dwayne, but all the ensemble, all the actors can walk on set and they felt like they were transported to 358 BC. We took them there because of the design. And I think both of us were attracted to the story because of that fact.
Right, and I think when you, as actors, when you come onto a set that's very practical, and some of our sets were literally the size of a soccer stadium. Massive, massive, massive set. So automatically, as Brett was saying, it informs you as an actor in terms of the meat of the story, and it's very, very grounded. And I want to say that, like Brett was saying, when you have a story that's been around for some time, and there's been other movies made on Hercules. Hercules just came out in January, by the way, where it was about the monsters and the mythology. It was something very intriguing and interesting about, again, well, what if is Hercules the son of Zeus? Possibly. Possibly. Is he a man? Absolutely. Who lives, breathes, and bleeds, and cuts, and is in pain too as well, loses his family. So there are a lot of different elements that made it very, very intriguing.
And the thing that he said earlier, which I love, is that Dwayne brought the humanity to it because he helped with the messaging of finding the hero in yourself, finding the belief in ourselves. Everybody, that relates to everybody. Everybody wants to find the greatness in yourself and find that belief in order to succeed. And he epitomizes that character, where you're rooting for him and you want him to win. And that's the movie that we were trying to make.
You said that Dwayne came to you and he said, I'm Hercules.
We want it in Spanish. Give it to us in Spanish. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Dwayne llegó contigo y te dijo.
I'm kidding. English is better.
Come on. Sure. Well, he came to you and he said, I'm Hercules, but what was what you asked for him? This is what I want, this is what I need. And through your preparation as Hercules, when was the time that you said, okay, this is the Hercules I'm going to play, this is the right Hercules?
Well, let me start and then I'll let him finish it, because I think both of us, because of our age, we're very close in age. He's much older than me, of course. And
29.
Because of our age, we grew up loving the concept of the strong man. For me, it went back to Superman, then Hercules, then of course Schwarzenegger, and all these characters. And I was a big fan of wrestling as well. Growing up watching Dusty Rhodes, The American Dream, and all these big, Andre the Giant. These guys. When you're a little boy, you look up to them. So for me, just the idea of a Hercules movie was the coolest thing in the world to do. But I couldn't find the actual story that I wanted to do, because if you think about it, and if you look back in history, as he said, there was 40 different versions of this movie, but they were all very similar. There were television shows, there were toys, everybody thinks they know the myth. We wanted to tell another version of the story. And I'll tell you a really quick, funny anecdote, that after he sat there and said, looked me in the eye and said, Brett, I was born to play this role. He then said on his way out, and by the way, I'm going to be working out really hard to get big for this part. And I said, Dwayne, I think, and he was just coming off a great movie that he did called Pain and Gain with Michael Bay. What are his muscles called? His traps were up to his ears at that moment. And I'm like, you're going to get bigger than that. But what he did was, before my eyes, and I've never seen an actor so devoted to a character, he transformed his body from being the weightlifter guy, the bodybuilder guy that was in Pain and Gain, to the mighty Hercules. So he can go through the details of it, but he literally transformed his body, and his dedication to the character was unprecedented. I've never worked with an actor, I'm not just saying this because he's here, that was so devoted. He was awake 4 hours before I was even awake, and committed to eating his diet and working out 2 times maybe before I even woke up. So his commitment to this, and I'll just tell you the one moment that I saw the transition, because every actor, you have your own interpretation. He's been dreaming about it a long time, but you're not sure exactly maybe, but he came so prepared. But the moment that I saw it was when we had our first fitting in London, and I saw him and he put on the lion's head, and he put on the loincloth, and he had the club in his hand, and then they put the beard on, and he sat there and he was in the mirror, and I just saw a thing come over his eyes, and I saw him make a transition, and I didn't see The Rock anymore. I didn't see Dwayne Johnson. I literally got chills because I saw Hercules. And then he found the voice, and each thing after, fell into place. So, I mean, he could talk about his...
As Brett was saying, there's been so many versions of Hercules. So when we were going to partner up to make this movie, I knew I had one shot. You get one opportunity to create something special. So I wanted to transform my body into a version that looked very survived and scarred and at times bloody.
Like a warrior.
Like a warrior, like Hercules was. My interpretation of Hercules was that. And also too, I wanted to transform into a man that people had never seen before, that people would have to do a double take, like, is that who I think it is? With the beard and the hair. So with that commitment came a a diet that was a 6-month training regimen where it was very intense diet. The training schedule was twice a day. As Brett was saying, I would wake up around 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning, and I would do my first workout, then I would eat breakfast, then I would do my second workout, and then I would go to set and sit in hair and makeup for beard and hair scars for 4 hours every day.
Hair and makeup 4 hours. I've never seen anything like that. Amazing.
Yeah, me too, by the way. So it was a very long process, but again, it's all done with the spirit of hopefully you want to create something different, and you want people to watch the movie, to be intrigued by it, attracted to it, and then once they see it, we want them to be entertained, and we want them to leave the theater thinking, that was a hell of a movie, thank you.
Mi primera pregunta es con respecto precisamente a México, ¿no? Yo sé que no es la primera vez que vienes. ¿Nos podrías hablar un poquito de tu opinión acerca de la Ciudad de México? Y la segunda pregunta es para los dos. ¿Me podrían contar cuál es su secuencia o escena favorita en la película?
First one about Mexico, right?
Yes, so I love Mexico. Love coming back to Mexico. It's always, it's probably I was trying to count this morning how many times I've been back here. I think it's somewhere, maybe 8 times, I think, over the years. Yeah, a long time. So
work or for vacation?
No, for everything. But I do. I really enjoy coming to Mexico. But here's the reason why. I just feel that every time I come, the welcoming is so warm, and it's so, and the warmth is always so inspiring. And I've lived in Miami since I was 18 years old, and the Latin influence in Miami is very strong. And I feel like every time I come here to Mexico, I feel like I'm at home, and it's so nice. I love coming back here, and there's no greater tequila in the world. Good Mexican, I appreciate that. And what was the other question?
The other question was about
your favorite scene.
Oh, the favorite scene. Well, I'll just to say one thing about Mexico is that the amazing part of it, it's a country of maybe 100 million people, but the movie fans, the fans of cinema, are abundant. And that's why we come here to support it, because we want to give back to the people who love the cinema, who love movies, and we love supporting them, you know, and that's why we want to come here, because it's a fantastic country, of course, great food, beautiful women, beautiful culture, you know, incredible culture, incredible history, but most of all is the love of movies that the Mexican people love, and we're here to support that. My favorite scene in the movie is the battle scene, the first battle scene in the movie, because it was probably the hardest scene I'd ever shot in my life. We spent weeks and weeks and weeks. We had maybe a day, 2,000 people on set a day. It was a huge challenge for everyone involved, and you know, from the crew, we had hundreds of crew members, hair and makeup people, hundreds of hair and makeup people to dress. You know, it's the guys with the green, with the bald guys in the battle. You know, so very, very challenging, and very proud of the way it came out. I love the scene.
I would have to, and I love that scene too, by the way. We probably 3-4 weeks it took to shoot that scene. My favorite scene in the movie would have to be when Hercules finally embraces and accepts his fate of who he was born to be. And he's chained up to the pillars, and he breaks the chains by screaming, "I am Hercules!" And it's an iconic moment in the mythology. It's an iconic moment in our movie. And we all felt in making the movie, we were going to be able to, if we did the scene right and we captured the spirit of that scene, then it's going to be an emotional scene for people. And we wanted people to all feel that in that moment. And because we all have those moments where in life we feel like we're chained up sometimes. Yeah, and beaten down, but we also have the spirit to get back up and scream, "I am Hercules." So I was very, very happy about that and what we were able to accomplish with that scene. Plus, I think I look pretty good in the loincloth.
What is that case there? Is that bulletproof? What's happening? Who are these two girls?
To translate.
Oh, I see. That's the booth. Okay, I'm sorry. Very cool. I like that.
Yes, hi. The first thing that I want to say is, like you say, Brett, hi. How are you? Wayne is a hero, is an icon here. Is for the young people, even for me. I'm considered a young people. And I followed all the motivation videos because you usually work out. And I didn't have $7 in my pocket, but I got 20 euros because I come from Spain. When I realized that if you work out hard, you can change your body and you can choose your destiny, right? So when I knew about this movie, I started to follow the diet, your diet, your Hércules diet, your exercises. Yes. And I have to tell you something because I did all exercise, but one of them is not working. I don't know why, but it's, I don't know if it's called like...
¿Puedes sentar, por favor?
It's the big pop of love, right? Can you show to the Mexican people how to do it?
Well, I have a jacket on. That's the thing. But
okay.
but what happens is when you have pecs as big as mine, comes through the jacket. But hey, I'm happy you followed the diet. By the way, that's an intense diet.
Hi. Before the U.S. premiere, the studio chose to keep images of the movie in secret. Why did they choose that, considering you have 50 million followers in social network?
It's a good question. You know, what happens with studios is they want to keep their content as close to the sleeve as possible before the movie comes out, and understandably so. I also knew that I had one of the greatest relationships I can ever have, and that's with the followers that I have. And it's a relationship that I look at that like I have a relationship with them. For people who follow me, by the way. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to not go against the studio, but I wanted to let them know ahead of time. What I want to do is I want to bring the 50 million plus followers along for the journey. I want to post pictures of myself getting ready, getting prepared, 4 hours of hair and makeup, shots of me on set. I wanted to do things like that to bring them along and make sure that they felt like they were getting something that they wouldn't otherwise get. The studio, MGM and Paramount, and all studios, by the way, they're always very selective in the images that they put out. I've got a tremendous relationship with Paramount and MGM and Warner Brothers, Universal, New Line, every studio out there. So there's a great amount of trust that the studios have with me in terms of the content that I release. So I can't speak for other actors, but for me in the studios, we're pretty locked in tight with, there's a lot of trust with what I can release. And plus it's Brett's fault too, by the way. He didn't want to let let any pictures out.
Studios do it really just for the control of you know, putting out there what they want. The first image I think is very important, and he was teasing a lot of the stuff. He was never really showing the face with the beard. There was key stuff that he wasn't revealing, and that we wanted it collectively as a team, meaning us and the studio, to figure out what are going to be the first images to see. It's a strategic thing.
And I think with every movie, it's a little different with what they want to release. But now looking back, and looking back at the campaign that we did, the publicity campaign, the marketing campaign, I'm not quite too sure if I would have done anything different. I think we would have remained the same, and then I would have continued to post the pictures that I still posted.
Al principio que mencionaron acerca del reto de hacer un Hércules diferente, más alejado tal vez del Dios, de la idea que tenemos, más cercano al hombre que tiene una familia, quisiera preguntarle a Dwayne, ¿qué tan importante? Bueno, sé que para él es muy importante la familia y que muchos de sus proyectos los elige también pensando en esto, a lo mejor películas que puedan ver sus hijos, en algunas del pasado. Obviamente los hijos han crecido, ahora pueden ver Hércules, me imagino. Si eso tuvo alguna influencia, además de lo que ya ha comentado, en elegir esta película. Y para él mismo, una segunda pregunta, acerca de, bueno, ya que hablaban de sus escenas favoritas, si Hércules, para Dwayne Johnson, es también una liberación en su carrera profesional, tanto como actor cinematográfico, productor y más atrás como deportista, ¿no? si hay un antes y un después de Dwayne Johnson a partir de Hércules.
Well, you know, I want to say that, you know, we went into this movie wanting, again, to deconstruct the mythology and make Hercules be about a man first, and being a man who had a family, and he is a family man, and family is important, and even though Hercules lost his family, he also had a family around him, and there was also another, it was also the spirit of there's no greatness and no success ever achieved alone. We do everything together. Everyone, at any level of success, you always have the people around you who help foster and support you. Family, if you will. So the element of family is always important to me in movies that I do, whether it's G.I. Joe or Fast and Furious or Hercules, where family is always becomes the root of the story. And in terms of Hercules being definitive for me as an actor and as a man, Hercules in many ways was definitive for me over the course of my career, and I know Brett felt the same way too. You know, Hercules, I've always said, came around to both of us at the perfect time. The perfect time in terms of the life that we've lived already, our age, and we were able to come and bring our own experiences, life experiences, not as young men in our early 20s, but as men who've lived lives. And I put my heart and soul into this role. I wanted to transform every day for 90 plus days, 4.5 hours of hair and makeup, the training, the diet, and things like that. I don't regret one day of it. I would do it, if I could do it all again, I'd do it twice. I would do it with Brett, and I would do it with this story. So it has become a very definitive movie for me, because also too, it's Hercules. He was essentially the world's first superhero. The creator of Superman has always referenced Hercules as his inspiration to create Superman. Hercules is the world's first superhero, so you only get one shot at it. It's an iconic role, and it's become definitive for me as in my career.
And it's really a family film. And thank you for pointing that out, because this is a movie that everyone in Mexico can bring their entire family from maybe ages 12, Michael? 8 from ages 8 and up, because